The Abandoned Factory Zero Nevermore is one of the best Five Nights at Wario's fan games, if not just one of the best Five Nights at Freddy's fan games in general. The game was heavily praised upon its first release and it still is to this day. This game is loved for a multitude of reasons. The extremely fun and well-balanced gameplay, the very unique and creative story, and of course, the insane amount of bonus content. There is so much content in this game it rivals 5 shows at Wario's. And just like that game, it has achievements to go after and they all range in difficulty. So today we will rank all of them from easiest to hardest and also draw to the conclusion if getting all of the achievements is harder to do in this game than it is to do so in 5 shows at Wario's. I will have to make a ground rule for this ranking though. I will not count progress that is required to get an achievement on this list. What I mean by that is that I will only count the task the achievement asks out of you and nothing else. For example, if there is an achievement that requires you to beat a boss battle as a certain character, but let's say that the character is locked and you have to unlock it, I will not judge how hard it is to unlock the character and I will only judge how hard it is to actually beat the boss as the character itself. Am I making any sense here whatsoever? Hopefully I am. I'm doing this to make the list more fair and less predictable. I will also disclude all completion achievements such as 100% achievements, as those achievements will obviously just be near the top and that is just boring and predictable. But that is about it. So with all of that explanation out of the way, let's actually start this list. This is truly an amazing way to start off this list. To get this achievement you must go to the terminal that appears when you open up the game and then all you have to do is type "fuck you" into it. You will then get jump scared by Bruno Locktrap and then the game will close. Simply reopen the game and the achievement is good as yours. It's as hard as it sounds. Despite being extremely simple and easy, this still is my favorite achievement in the game just due to how silly and dumb it is. This achievement is peak.
Fuck you!
Okay, this one is similar to the last one. You need to go to the terminal and type trophy 4 times in a row to get the achievement. The achievement's name doesn't lie. It is indeed too easy. Now I must explain why too easy is harder than Encounter the Second, because that is a question everyone is totally asking right now. In Encounter the Second you have to reopen the game, which can be too much work for the fragile mind. But in Too Easy you have to type the same thing 4 times, and 4 times is an overwhelming number for the delicate mind. But this achievement is overall harder because the game never tells you that you have to type trophy multiple times, and it may be a little bit difficult figuring that out on your own, thus making this the harder achievement. That might just have been the stupidest comparison I've ever made in my whole life. Here is another free achievement that requires little to no effort. You need to go to the custom night menu in the main game and set everyone to 0. Doing this will crash the game and then you will have to reopen it to get the achievement. This one is harder than the previous 2 as you have to go through more menus to get it. I literally don't have anything else to say about this achievement besides that. Sorry for this one being so short, but this achievement lacks anything to actually talk about, so I don't know what you want me to do here. Moving on. This is an easy one. You must get killed by every character at least once to get the achievement. Getting killed intentionally is so easy to the point where you can go and make yourself a sandwich while you let the game play itself to get the achievement for you. This achievement still is slightly harder than the previous ones, as this one takes a little longer to get and you actually need to put some work into your brain memorizing which characters have killed you already and which haven't. This is the first achievement on this list I don't consider to be free, but this one is still extremely easy to get regardless. I'm honestly shocked how long it took to get to this achievement, seeing how it is literally a night 1 achievement, but here we are. In order to get this achievement you must survive round 1. This round puts you up against 3 threats, those being Wario, Waluigi, and Peach. These characters all work mostly the same with only a couple of tweaks between each of them. The main ways of stopping the characters mostly narrows down to you closing the door in your room and you turning on the lights in the second chamber. These mechanics are all pretty easy to pick up and learn, but having 3 characters in one night could be a little bit stressful. But thankfully in return of having so many characters they all move abysmally slow. This is of course expected seeing that this is a night 1, but these guys move so slow to the point where you are probably only going to get attacked once. In fact they are so slow to the point where I didn't even know Waluigi was active this night until replaying it. Yeah, the AI is that slow. The last thing you are introduced to in this night is your computer's thermal paste. You need to keep your thermal paste charged, and it honestly isn't that hard to do that. The paste will decrease faster the longer you are using your computer, so use it sparingly. Beating this night takes little to no effort due to the simple mechanics and extremely slow character AI, but it still requires a little more effort than the previous achievements, thus putting it higher. To get this achievement you must beat any night in Ever After while the power is out. You see, while I still love Ever After with all of my heart, I have one big issue with it. The power usage is far too lenient. Even on the hardest nights you are still going to be finding yourself at over half the maximum power at the very end of those nights. This kinda means you are going to have to go out of your way to get this achievement. Running out of power here is really easy, as all you have to do is spam the electricity shock in Luigi's perspective and you'll run out of power instantly. This happens because it uses 10 power every time you shock the door while it is empty. Once that's done you just have to wait for the clock to strike 12 and you win. This is barely even harder than the previous achievements, but I still put it a little higher than the rest just because it requires some timing to do, which can be somewhat difficult if you suck at timing things, I guess. This achievement is still pretty easy though, and I'd be pretty surprised if anyone truly struggled on this one. This is another jump scare achievement that requires you to get all of the jump scares in Ever After. While this would normally be an extremely easy task, there is one element that makes this jump scare achievement much harder than the one in the main game. You have 2 windows opened up on your computer at once. The office being Waluigi's perspective and the cellar being Luigi's perspective. The big twist here that makes this achievement harder is that getting a jump scare only counts if it happens in Waluigi's perspective. This means you still are going to need to fend off characters in Luigi's perspective while waiting for the other characters to attack in Waluigi's perspective, meaning you can no longer go AFK. This also makes memorizing which characters have killed you even harder, as you also need to remember the perspective they killed you in. Finally, this also means there may be some RNG involved if a character you need spawns in the wrong perspective. This achievement still isn't that hard though, as all you need to do is just intentionally be bad at the game, but these extra steps still do move this entry up a bit. Back to the main night achievements, we have the one for beating round 2. Round 2 is a noticeable step up in difficulty from round 1, but it isn't anything too wild. The speed difference in the AI is very noticeable compared to round 1, and by that I mean the characters no longer spent 6 million years in a single camera before moving. Because the AI actually does something, you will now need to be on your toes in preparation for an attack. The AI is still pretty slow, but it still is a step up regardless. Luigi now also makes his first appearance in this night and he works similarly to the other characters introduced so far. The only notable difference in Luigi's behavior is that he always moves to the same cameras in the same order every time. Luigi has no randomness in his movement and that makes him the easiest character in the game that moves normally through the cameras. Luigi is also painfully slow in this night, so you are most likely not going to see him attack you. Similarly to Waluigi in round 1, I did not even know Luigi was active on this round until replaying it for a second time. This round may be a definite step up in difficulty compared to the first, but this round really shouldn't give you much trouble still, so I think this is a pretty good spot to put this achievement on the list. This is hands down the most luck-based achievement in the game. Not that there is really much to compete with anyway. The characters in this game can of course attack you directly, but they also have an alternative method of killing your run. You see, all standard camera characters with the exception of Waluigi can go to Luigi's room and kill him. You can turn on the lights in Luigi's room to stop whoever is trying to kill him if you are quick enough. If you were to take too long to turn on the light, whoever is in the room will kill Luigi and then they will kill you shortly after. But you see, the time frame for the characters to attack you after killing Luigi is lenient enough for you to still be able to finish the night while Luigi is dead. That is nice and all, but this achievement requires you to do that exact thing. The problem is that surviving while Luigi is dead is extremely rare. It doesn't help that there is no way you can guarantee Luigi's death at a certain time. At least in the ever after version of this achievement, you can easily force your power to run out at any time, but you can't do that here. While yes, you could use the custom night to set everybody's AI higher to raise the chances of this happening, there is still no guarantee that it will work. The actual achievement itself isn't very hard, but just getting the luck to earn it instantly puts it this high on the list. I also just want to quickly mention that if you beat a night while Luigi is dead, a cutscene will play of Waluigi reviving Luigi with a 1-up. I love this game with its small details. Anyway, let's move on.
I only poo-poo farted for the good of humanity.
We return with yet another main round achievement, this time being for round 3. The AI is noticeably faster than it was in round 2. You now have to actually start trying if you want to survive. I still wouldn't say the AI is hard in this night, but I definitely would not say it is easy tonight either. If your reflexes and strategy are good enough, the AI still shouldn't pose too much of a threat though. This night also introduces Mario. Mario will start in the fireplace and he will slowly approach you more and more. Once close enough, Mario will turn into MX and you'll need to play a small minigame. In this minigame, time will pause and you'll be put in control of Luigi in a Super Mario Bros. 1 setting. You have a basket on your head and little bugs will start to fall down. Simply get 5 bugs to land in your basket and you'll win. Peach will also move around and she will make you lose 1 bug if she hits you. Just like in classic Mario, you can jump on her to kill her for a bit. You are put under a time limit, so you must act fast. Winning the game will send Mario back to the start of the fireplace and you can continue the night as usual. But if you fail the minigame or just forget to activate the minigame in general, MX will climb out of the fireplace into your room and he will kill you shortly after. Mario can be somewhat of a tricky character, but he thankfully moves pretty slowly, so you're most likely going to only be attacked by him once tonight. Round 3 is another big step up in difficulty, but it is far from hard, so I think this is a fair spot to put this achievement on the list. We have yet another main night achievement, this time for round 4. The AI moves slightly faster than it did in round 3, but not by much honestly. Since the AI isn't too much more challenging, the new spice of difficulty comes from this night's new character, Toadette. Toadette will randomly break your computer at any time without any warning and you'll need to fix it. Time is paused while Toadette is attacking, just like how it pauses during Mario's minigame. In order to stop Toadette, you must pull up your broken computer and remember the 5-digit error code. Once you've memorized the code, open up your phone and import the error code into the numpad and press call. Afterwards you'll get a mysterious phone call that will tell you a 4-digit password. Input the 4-digit password from the mysterious call into your broken computer using your keyboard and your computer will be fixed and time will be unpaused. You see, during Toadette's whole attack phase you are put under a time limit, so you must do everything pretty quickly. If time runs out, Toadette will spawn in your room and she will kill you shortly after. If you are feeling pretty cocky, you can spend some extra time refilling your thermal paste for your computer while everyone is paused, which is pretty cool. Toadette can be pretty difficult if you have a scrummy memory, but otherwise she really isn't that bad. Round 4 isn't that big of a step up in difficulty due to the AI not being much faster than it was in round 3, but it still is technically harder due to the new character, so that's that. Moving on. We now finally have another Ever After achievement. This simply requires you to beat test 4 with 70 or less power without running out. Just like I said before, the usage in Ever After is far too lenient, so it's very likely you are not going to get this achievement accidentally, as you are almost never going to be under 100 power. Because of this, you are going to have to remind yourself to get down to 70 power at the end of the night. Intentionally getting down to 70 power still isn't that hard at all, as you can just spam the door shock. This achievement would have been way lower if it wasn't for the fact that it directly had to be done on test 4, which is a somewhat challenging night. That's about it though. To get this achievement you must complete test 5 in Ever After. I'm not going to explain each character individually, but I'll explain a couple of basic mechanics for everything. Some characters will spawn in the cameras of someone's perspective and you'll need to deal with them once they get in that character's room. Keeping track of characters in 2 perspectives may sound painful, but that is until you realize all characters in while Luigi's perspective are just reaction based. This means that you don't ever need to check the cameras for the factory, and you'll only need to check the cameras for the cellar, as that is where Luigi is. There is also some characters that don't move through the cameras and they will just attack you randomly. These characters are only just reaction based, so they aren't that bad. Finally, we have the cameras themselves. The cameras can break occasionally and you'll need to repair them on Luigi's perspective. It's basically just the rebooting mechanic from Five Nights at Freddy's 3. While a lot of these mechanics are pretty easy to deal with individually, they can be challenging when all mixed together. The big bright side to this though is that all of the characters in this night move pretty slowly, so getting constantly attacked by everyone shouldn't be much of a worry. Overall, this achievement is a sweet little challenge that isn't anything too crazy, so that's why it earned its spot here on the list. This achievement requires you to power on the recovery arcade, and to do that you must get all of the gems. You can find the gems in the mini games tab of the extras menu. In this menu you are greeted with 3 mini games that each have a goal listed on them. Achieving the goal will give you a gem for the recovery arcade. Let's discuss the 3 mini games, starting with Burger Assembly. You are put in control of Peach and you can move both left and right. Pieces of burgers will start to fall and you'll collect them if they fall on you. You'll earn 5 points for every burger piece that lands on you. These pieces fall in groups of 4. If a piece of a burger were to hit the floor you would get a red X. Getting 3 X's will end the minigame immediately, so avoid getting X's as much as possible. If you were to get enough pieces you will build a burger, and when a burger is built you'll get a ton of points and all currently falling burger pieces will disappear, allowing you to regather your bearings. Emma will fall down too, and if she hits you you will get a red X. Don't worry, as nothing will happen if Emma hits the floor. Thankfully, or maybe not thankfully, Emma falls down much faster than the burger pieces, so don't worry about her spawning on top of a falling burger piece. As time goes on everything moves faster, so be sure to stay on your toes. Your goal here is to obtain 1200 points. This takes forever to get, and knowing that getting 3 X's instantly ends everything, a lot of stress is put on you. This minigame isn't even that hard, but it's just the long amount of time you have to play perfectly for is what makes it difficult. This minigame is really just a durability test. Moving on to minigame 2, we have Burger Time. This minigame works similarly to the opening minigame from Five Nights at Freddy's 6. You are put in control of Wario and you can move up, down, left, and right. You can also throw burgers by pressing space, assuming you have any of them. You can obtain burgers by going to the table on the top left and walking over them. The burgers will respawn after a couple of seconds. Some kids will spawn and you'll need to throw burgers at them. After feeding a kid you'll get 20 points. There are 3 types of kids that need different amounts of burgers. Green kids need 3 burgers, blue kids need 2 burgers, and red kids need 1 burger. If a kid doesn't get fed in time, it will disappear and you will get an X. Just like the previous minigame, 3 X's will instantly end the game. Emma will also try to screw you over by moving up and down depending on your location, and she'll block your burgers. Thankfully, hitting Emma with a burger will stop her with the power of obesity for a little bit, allowing you to continue on for a few seconds. You must strategically stun her in the best spot for the best results. You must get 1500 points, but since you get points much quicker here, that isn't that bad. But in return, failing is way easier. The last minigame was about durability, while this one is about playing skills. The final minigame is just an endless mode for the main game. To win this you must survive 400 seconds without being killed. This could have been very challenging if it weren't for the AI being extremely slow. Like, the AI speed here is about as fast as it is on night 3. There are no unique mechanics and the AI never speeds up, so getting 400 seconds in endless is a breeze. Once all gems are collected you must go back to the arcade from the main menu, and the arcade will give you a Super Nintendo game you can't even play. Instead, the Super Nintendo game will just be chilling on a desk as a decoration in the last nightmare mode. Well, that was a waste of time. This achievement is somewhat difficult, but it isn't anything rage-worthy. It's really just more time consuming than anything. And that is why this achievement earned its spot here on the list. To get this achievement you must beat the Secret Entity Mario round. This round is meant to be the hardest challenge for the main mode, and it really doesn't live up to that title. In this night you are only put up against Entity Mario and no one else. Entity Mario is a pretty complicated character, so I'll try to do my best to explain him. Entity Mario can spawn in one of 4 places. Depending on where he spawns, he will use an attack method upon arriving at your room. For simplicity reasons I will call his spawn locations as A spawn and B spawn. If Entity Mario were to spawn in the first bedroom or kitchen, that will be his A spawn. And if he were to spawn in the caverns or staircase, that will be his B spawn. Regardless of where Entity Mario spawns, he will make his way to the first or second hallway, then he will try to attack you. If he were to go to the second hallway and leave, do one of the following. If he were to do an A spawn, turn on the lights in Luigi's room, and for his B spawn, check the vent camera and stare at him. If Entity Mario goes to the first hallway and leaves, do one of the following. For his A spawn, shine the flashlight on him multiple times until he leaves, and for his B spawn, keep the door in your room closed. Entity Mario will start to move very fast later in the night, so keeping track of him might sound extremely painful, but there is one strategy you can use to make this night much easier. Remember the whole A spawn B spawn thing? Well, forget it, as this strategy throws that out of the window. You only need to check hallway 1 and 2 and wait for him to show up. This gives you time to charge your thermal paste while still being able to get back on the cameras and quickly search for him. If he were to go to hallway 2 and leave, check the vent camera, and if he isn't there, quickly turn on the light in Luigi's room and he's done. If Entity Mario were to be in the vent, you've already stopped him. If he were to go to hallway 1 and leave, run to your door. If Entity Mario were to be using the Gangster Mario with a gun, render, quickly run out of the hallway and close the door, as he still gives you enough time to run back. And if Entity Mario were to be using any other render, just use your light to stop him as normal. This strategy makes this night way easier, but it doesn't make it completely free, and you still may fail every time to time. This night isn't really hard, but I wouldn't say that it is easy either, so I think this is a fair spot to put us on the list. Okay, now I know what a lot of you are thinking right now. Why is this achievement on this list? I thought you said that you weren't including any completion achievements. And even if so, why on earth would the maximum completion achievement be this low? Well, yes, I may not be counting 100% achievements. This one is a little bit different. You see, in order to unlock this achievement you must complete a secret night that is only unlocked after 100%ing the game. I will not be judging this achievement based off of how hard it is to fully complete the game, but rather I will be judging how hard it is to beat the secret night. Starting off, this night gives you a computer to scan the building and recharge your power. Running out of power obviously means death. You can also hide under a table and look in 4 directions. Finally, you can use a flash for self-protection. Bruno Gate will move through the building and you'll need to flash him when he gets in. He is pretty fast, so he can be somewhat dangerous, but he still is manageable. Demon Wario works nearly the same as Bruno Gate, but he moves a little slower. But in return, after you flash him you must hide under the table and you can't stay there for too long or you'll die. Demon Wario is definitely the biggest threat in this night. Shadow Queen will slowly raise her hands up and you'll need to spam click them or you'll die. She honestly really isn't that bad because she is really slow. Finally, Dimento will play a sound cue and you'll need to look at him or he will cause your generator to break. Dimento is barely even a threat since he gives you so much time to stop him and he can't even kill you. Speaking of your generator, it will break every time and you'll need to fix it, which takes a couple of seconds. If it breaks for too long the generator will be completely destroyed. Bruno Gate and Demon Wario are decent threats, but everything else in this night barely does anything harmful, so only some of the threats in this night will actually keep you on your toes. Keep in mind the game has put you through much worse by this point, so you should definitely have the skills to beat this. After the night is over you are put into a short mini game where you are put in control of Bruno Gate and you must chase down what I'm assuming is Peach. You just need to follow her around the building and then the mini game will end. After all of that is done the achievement will be finally yours. This night is somewhat difficult, but it isn't anything extremely crazy. By this point you've been through so much worse that this night can't hold a candle to everything else you've gone through. So that's why this achievement earned its spot here on the list. This is the final main night achievement and boy it's rough. To start off, everyone moves way faster compared to night 4 and you will be finding yourself getting attacked by characters constantly. There is no areas for breaks in this night, so you better always be ready for an attack even when you least expect it. This night also introduces the most difficult character in this entire mode, Bowser. You see, Bowser has 2 main methods of attacking, so let's go over them. His first mechanic is that he can summon Koopa Kids into your room and you'll need to quickly spam click them. Failing to do so will lead to one of your cameras being disabled for a short amount of time. If they just disable a random unimportant camera you will be fine. But if they pick a camera that is vital to your survival you are kinda screwed. They will thankfully play a loud sound cue upon spawning, so don't worry about them secretly attacking behind your back. It is Bowser's second mechanic that makes him a nuisance. He can randomly spawn a tree in any camera and it will cause your oxygen to deplete. If you run out of oxygen you're dead. In order to stop the trees you must check every camera until you find the tree. Once you found it you must become the Onslaught from the Lorax and cut down the tree by clicking on it. The problem is that Bowser constantly spawns these trees rapidly, so you will be constantly switching your attention to these trees. There is also no sound cue for the trees spawning, so you better be paying attention to the oxygen meter, as that's the only way you can tell Bowser spawned a tree. Don't forget that multiple trees can be spawned at the same time, which will make your oxygen deplete extremely rapidly. This night is a huge challenge with its incredibly fast AI and its very deadly new character, but with enough practice and dedication it can be done. Afterwards you are put out into a short mini game where you must escape the cellar. This mini game requires literally no skill, as it's just a memory game. This mini game is the worst part of the entirety of TAF Zero, as it's just trial and error without anything else redeeming. Failing will only take you back to the beginning of the mini game and not the whole night, thankfully. After beating the mini game the achievement will be good as yours. In conclusion, this night adds an extremely difficult character that takes lots of practice to understand, and just to make things worse the AI here is absolutely brutal. I can see some people getting stuck here, but with enough practice and dedication you should be able to breeze through this, so I think this is a fair spot to put this achievement on the list. This achievement requires you to unlock Last Nightmare mode, and to do that you must beat round 5 in the main game. That's right, this achievement is literally the exact same thing as the last one. This one gets the upper end though, since you have to go through a couple more menus to unlock it, but that is literally it. Moving on. This achievement requires you to beat the 6th test in Ever After. The AI here is somewhat fast, so you will still need to be ready for an attack. The big spice of challenge in this night comes through the new character Entity 01. You see, this night is endless until you kill him. Doing that takes a lot of time, so this night is a lot longer than the other nights, making failure here even more punishing. Whenever you hear Entity 01 sound cue, you must check the 2 outdoor cameras. Once you find him, you must charge up one of 2 generators depending on where he's located. Once you fully charge the generator, Entity 01 will be electrocuted and he will lose some of his health. If he spawns in the factory, you are lucky, as the charge button is close to your mouse already and it takes a short amount of time to charge. But if 01 spawns in Grey City, that's really bad news, as you need to switch windows, which takes some time, and then you need to charge up a way bigger meter in Luigi's perspective, which takes quite some time. Keep in mind, Entity 01 doesn't give you much time to stop him, so you must be very fast. In conclusion, this night is pretty challenging due to the new character being decently difficult, and also because this night is way longer than the rest because of the health bar mechanic. Add along some other decently fast characters and you got yourself a tough but fair challenge. So with all of that in mind, I think this is a good spot to put us on the list. This achievement requires you to beat the max mode in the main game. Max mode may be challenging, but I honestly would say it isn't much harder than round 5. You see, because round 5 turned up the AI so high, max mode can't really add too much more to the AI's speed, making max mode feel nearly the same as round 5. Don't go under the impression that this is easy, as it is definitely not, but this max mode really isn't that bad. If you can beat round 5, you can definitely beat this. Before I move on though, I should mention the reward for beating this max mode, as it might just be the best max mode reward in any 5 Nights at Freddy's fan game ever. A radio will appear in your office, which other fan games have done, but this one is different. Instead of playing some dumb hard-coded song that gets really old quickly, you can instead make the radio play any MP3 file you want. There are absolutely no restrictions on what you can play on it, just as long as the file is an MP3 file. And because of that, it allows you to do things like this. This achievement requires you to beat all 5 custom night challenges in Ever After. One of these challenges is actually the max mode, so let's start off with that. This max mode is about on par in difficulty with the main game's max mode, where it's challenging, but if you could beat test 6 you can beat this. Something I should mention is that Entity 01 is active in the max mode, but he no longer has a health bar, so the night length thankfully isn't made longer. You sadly don't get a radio for beating max mode in Ever After. The 4 other custom night challenges can be somewhat difficult, but none of them compare to the max mode itself. This achievement is decently difficult, and just to make things worse, it's also very time consuming. So with all of those aspects in mind, I think this is a fair spot to put us on the list. This achievement requires you to do the same thing as the last achievement we discussed. You must beat all of the custom night challenges for the main game. And just like Ever After, max mode is one of those challenges. I've already discussed max mode, so I'll briefly explain why the main game custom night challenge achievement is harder than the ever after one. To start off, I personally find the main game max mode to be a little bit harder than the one in ever after. And the second reason that this one is higher is that there is 7 custom night challenges in the main game and 5 in ever after. This means that this one is an even more time consuming achievement to get. I really don't have anything else to say about this achievement. Nearly everything I said about the ever after achievement applies to this one, so let's move on. This achievement requires you to survive 800 seconds in endless mode in ever after. Ever after has a very special endless mode. You see, it adds a couple of new mechanics just to keep things fresh. One of the new mechanics is that the AI randomizes every 20 seconds. This means you could be playing a completely empty night for a bit just for it to immediately switch to max mode in a span of a second. This randomness really causes things to get pretty chaotic. Just to make things worse, endless mode adds events. You see, every 100 seconds a new event will activate, which could really screw you over. While I'm not going to go over every event, I will bring up some notable ones. Some of the events will spawn completely new characters like Bruno Locktrap, who will constantly run into your door or window. To make things worse, Bruno Locktrap's sound cues are so loud and long to the point where listening to other important sounds are near impossible. Events are not just characters though, as there is an event that will hide all HUD from the screen, making saving power much harder. Not that power was much of an issue in the first place, but probably the hardest challenge is Demonware. This adds 2 new cameras you need to constantly check because a demon might spawn in one of these rooms randomly and you will need to shock it. The bad part is that it's pretty hard to tell if they are in the room, as they are pretty well hidden and they have no sound cue. Events can be a huge pain in the butt sometimes. Just as a reminder that you have to survive 800 seconds, which is equivalent to 13 minutes and 20 seconds. And with all of the randomizing AI and constant events, you got yourself a recipe for disaster. So that's why this achievement earned its spot here on the list. This achievement requires you to beat the final round, which has a whole new game mode tied to it. This game mode is by far the hardest of the 3. You remember how Five Nights at Freddy's 2 always felt overwhelming because it had 11 characters? Well, at least in that game there were only 3 real mechanics and multiple characters shared them. But in this mode there are 9 characters and they all work completely differently. Keep in mind the game introduces all 9 characters in the span of a single night. Thankfully not everyone is active from the start, but that still is pretty insane. I'm not going to discuss every mechanic for the characters, but I'll go over some of the more notable ones. While Luigi requires you to hide in the back room and you can't charge your generator while he is in the office or he'll kill you. Daisy will spawn lots of virus toads in the fireplace and you will need to run there and slowly build up a fire to burn them. Mario will spawn in one of 2 cabins, and once he leaves you must put on a mask and look on a certain side of the office depending on what cabin he was in. Demon Wario requires you to play audio to keep him away from your room, kinda like Springtrap. That already sounds like a lot, right? Well, keep in mind that I haven't even gone over half of the characters in this night yet. And still don't forget that the game also throws all of these mechanics at you in the span of only a single night. The characters also move pretty fast, especially near the end, so you are not given much time to rest either. The only somewhat easy part of this night is that sometimes a tape that explains a new character will play. During this, every character pauses so you can use this extra time to figure out everyone's locations and strategize. You can't recharge your power when time is paused though. In conclusion, this is an extremely hard achievement that throws a ton of mechanics at you in a single night, along with some brutal AI to go along with it. This is only saved by the time pauses with the tapes. So with all of that in mind, I think this is a pretty fair spot to put us on the list. This achievement requires you to beat the entire campaign all over again with a very brutal twist. You see, before you start each round you must sign a contract that will make the game harder. Some will only affect a single round while others permanently affect the whole game. You are usually given an option to choose what contract to sign. Thankfully, the thing that makes this achievement so difficult is because of the first contract you sign. You see, this contract makes it so that you are given only 5 lives to complete the entire game. If you get jump scared, you will obviously lose a life. Once you run out of lives, your save file for that run is completely erased. This makes death extremely punishing, and it also puts a ton of pressure on you, especially when you are down to 1 or 2 lives. Also, on the first round there is only 1 contract you can sign, so your only option is to give yourself limited lives. Once you reach round 5, you are forced to sign another painful contract. This contract adds Shadow Queen to the night, and she will fade into the cameras, and if she fades in too much, take a guess at what will happen. In order to prevent this, you must turn your brightness on the computer down to the point where you can't even see it anymore. You will also need to keep your brightness low in general just to prevent Shadow Queen from moving at the speed of light, so keeping track of other characters is made even more painful. Beating round 5 was tough already, but now it's just a little nightmare. In conclusion, this is a very brutal achievement due to all of the contracts you have to stack on yourself, making the game painfully difficult. Add along the fact that you only have 5 lives to beat this, and you literally got hell in the form of a video game. Now let's move on to our number 1 entry. A trip to Grey City is by far the hardest achievement in this game without a doubt, and it's for a multitude of reasons. This max mode takes everything from round 6 and just makes it harder, and just to make things worse, it removes all of the easy things from it too. First off, all of the characters are already active from the start, so your chances of dying through the entire night are much higher. Not only that, but all of the pause breaks are gone, so you are never given any time to catch your breath, nor are you given any time to quickly figure out everyone's location. The AI doesn't hold back here whatsoever, as everyone moves extremely fast to the point where you usually can't even go 10 seconds without being attacked. Keeping track of everyone here is also a huge pain in the butt due to how many of them are active and how long this night goes on for. There is so much stuff you have to remember, so you will be constantly dying to characters you forgot even existed in the first place. There are no compromises made here, and if you want to succeed, you must learn how to master this mode and its mechanics. Without doing that, you are beyond screwed. So with all of that in mind, this earns the title of the hardest achievement in the Abandoned Factory 0. Now that we have gotten all of the rankings out of the way, let's answer the big question. Is it harder to get all of the achievements in 5 shows at Wario's or the Abandoned Factory 0? Well, I personally think it's harder to get all of the achievements in 5 shows at Wario's, honestly. In that game you had to beat an extremely luck-based and difficult bullet hell with only 3 hit points. For another achievement you had to beat the max modes for 5 completely different games just to get it. Another achievement needs you to reach level 100 in your EXP, which requires a ton of hours in grinding. There are even more achievements I could go over, but I would just be rambling on at that point. The worst thing you have to go through in the Abandoned Factory 0, however, is just a pretty challenging max mode, but that's it. Nothing else in this game really leaves a lasting punch, so I think it's pretty fair to say that 5 shows at Wario's is the harder game to 100%. Now before I completely finish, I want to thank John for helping me out again. He made the thumbnail for this video and he also worked on making this game too. I also just want to give credit and thanks to this game's 2 main developers, Ray3 and Malek. Those 2 did an amazing job at making this game, and I recommend you go support them. There is a lot of other people who also worked on this game, so I must say good job to them too. Also, right when I was finishing this video, it was recently announced that this game is getting another major update, meaning that this video is going to already become extremely outdated, so that's fun. Well, that's all I really have to say for today, so I'll see you all again eventually.